Is it going to work now? We've been having camera problems, guys. Sorry about that. So tonight, I wanted to get started on doing the rear main, or not the rear main, the axle seals. I wanted to get the trans ready to start going in, but we hit a major snag. When UPS delivered my trans, they dropped it, and I didn't notice it had a crack in it till we cleaned it up tonight. So I found a local guy who can weld aluminum. He's going to weld the cracks for me. Lucky they're nothing huge. One of them is kind of like the worst of it. I'm gonna have this welder guy check it out. He said he can handle the aluminum job, so we'll have to load that up in the Jeep and take that. So since we're sitting here trying to figure out what to do, we have a few small things we can button up. I can get the wiring going inside the car, which I'm thinking that's what I'm going to show you guys tonight. Mounting the computer, getting the wiring back to the fuel tank, and then we can mount the coolant reservoir tonight. A few things here and there. I don't know how much we're going to actually get done. I'm kind of bummed out with this. Let me show you the trans and show you what I'm dealing with, and then we'll go from there. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up on camera, but you guys can see right along there we have a crack in the trans. I don't know how far back it goes. I think it stops right here, and it goes from here to here. I haven't noticed any other cracks in this case, and finding one of these transmissions exactly isn't the easiest. So the next couple nights I'll be loading this up in the Jeep and taking it to this welder that I found. He has some good reviews, so he's a fairly fresh business trying to get started, but I've seen some of his work and it's stand up for what he can do with aluminum. So that's where we're at. Let's grab this computer. Let's start mounting stuff inside. Let's not let the negatives outweigh the positives. We're still getting somewhere with this. I will get the computer mounted, get the wires ran, and we can solder and button that up. Might even be able to get the shifter squared away in there. I've got to find some parts for the shifter that I have laying around, and we'll get that going. So you guys can see the manual trans ECU. I labeled it so I didn't get them mixed up. There's 4 nuts, cap nuts. They're 10 millimeters. You only have to loosen these 2 and undo these 2, and you could gently pull up on this and slide the new computer in and the old computer out. It's fairly simple. Just to make sure the plug faces towards the angle, because when this sits in the vehicle, it's going to actually sit upside down like this. Let's see if I can hold it. Y'all, I'm not very talented at this. My little DIY channel cracks me up sometimes when I watch my own videos. It's going to sit under the vehicle like this, or inside the kick panel like that. And your plug for the ECU is going to come in through the firewall like I showed you guys earlier, and plug right in, and then this is going to bolt down to the floor, and your passenger feet are going to be right on top of it. So that's why we did that. Now we're going to get this inside the vehicle. We're going to get that inside. We're going to start getting all the wires plugged into the dash. There's not a whole lot of wires down there. So it'll be fairly straightforward, fairly easy to do. Let's get inside the car and I'll show you what we're doing. The hardest part is going to be finagling the fuel wiring all the way back under the carpet, back to where it needs to go. And once we get it close, we still have to fix the wiring harness. So I've got to find my soldering iron and my solder and my heat shrink and get that all squared away too. So here we are under the dash. This is our ECU wiring. This harness goes back. Sorry guys, this harness here goes back to the fuel pump, which we'll throw behind us for now, and we'll get that situated. Like I said, this will go to my ECU. This plugs in to here, and it's got a slide connector so it can only go in one way. And these 2 will also fit underneath the dash here. And the reason I said, oh, I'm not even showing you guys, sorry. Let's hold it like this. Let's see here. So this will plug in here, and it has a slide connector that locks it in. These will plug in under the dash, and then this jumble of harness right here will feed underneath the heater vents come out and down the center and then to the back. And you guys can see I have another harness over there. And the interior is being used for storage as we do these jobs. So, pardon the mess. So once that's all done, then we have this plug here, that rides right into here. And like I said, these are pretty self-explanatory. ECU harness. And the skid plate can route all this and protect all this. And then you got so this will go into here. Let's see if I can get set up here. So this will go into here. And like I said, these plugs only go one way. And you got this. Oops, sorry guys. I really should invest in a mount, huh? But then you can watch and look and see that these go in a certain way. They have a specific clip, so it goes in. And I'm 210, 5'10", so getting under this dash isn't exactly easy on me. So we do what we can. That's connected. And then we got to find the pigtail for this one. It's in here somewhere. And then we can start feeding this back through the floor. So let me see if I can get my big old hiney up in here and see what I can find for that other plug. And then we'll get the fuel wiring situated too. What a pain in the butt. My dad gives me props for doing this, and I still think I'm crazy for even attempting it. Well, let me get under the dash. I'll be right back with y'all. Well, that's the one I was missing. So there's a little harness around the inside of the passenger side dash / kick panel, and it goes in one way. Boom. Now we run this wiring up underneath the dash, and let me see if I can get in here with you guys so you guys can see all this harness here. And I'm gonna go ahead and try to clean all this up once I have it all squared away, and I know we're good. I don't know what I did with the factory crap, so I'm pretty sure this goes up in here somehow, and we'll get all that tucked up and cleaned up. But I want to get my fuel line wire, my fuel pump wire ran first, because that's going to be key to getting it tucked away neatly. And the cool thing is, this duct flips up so we can lift up and get access to moving the ducting for our wiring. And then we just got to make sure we set that back down properly. So let me get this wire dragged in. I'm not going to worry about my plug yet until I get everything wired to the back of the vehicle. Just makes my life easier. So it's 1, 2, 3 ECU plugged pigtail, 4, and then the 2 or 3 connectors, and 1 for the parking brake, I believe. So alright, so the fuel tank wiring, it goes underneath your heating duct, and this does pivot up, and this feeds under. You might have to unclip it here, where my middle finger is, run the wire underneath it, squeeze it down. This harness will tuck back, this wiring will tuck back down, the carpet. I cut it stupidly, just so I can show you guys what it does. And then we have our harness here, that runs along the trans tunnel, exhaust tunnel, whatever you guys want to call it, on this front wheel drive car. We have one connection here at the park brake, and that's, once again, is plug and play. Sorry guys, you guys get a view of my hand while I try to get this connected. So that'll click in, we can tuck that in right down in here. It'll just go under the wiring, or go under the carpet, and a lot of this will stay more put when we get the seats in and stuff. We're going to run this under the carpet, like so. There should be a hole underneath the carpet to push this pin into. It'll come in down here like this, and then this goes up to access the fuel tank. But I still have to address these little boogers here. And I do appreciate Brian for crimping these back together. But as I've said in any video I've done wiring, I'm not a fan of crimp connectors. So I'm going to get this squared away. We're going to fix it, heat shrink it, and go from there. And I'll show you guys soldering it. It's not that spectacular, but I can do enough to get myself in trouble with. The trick will be to uncrimp these without shortening the wires. So, well, looks like my battery's done. We'll charge my phone for a little while and go from there. So you guys can see the wires that were crimp connected. I just connected them. We're going to wrap this one here a little tighter first. Then I will go ahead and put some solder on it. You guys can see I've already got heat shrink over it. You guys want to get that on there before you solder it, or else you're not going to be able to slide it over the fresh solder. Let me get my camera down. Let me get my soldering iron heated up. I've got just a little welder unit. And we'll go from there. Well, somehow my files got corrupted when I was soldering all this together. So let me show you. This is the good one. Soldered, heat shrunk. This one, the heat shrink got hot before I could get over the solder joint, and I am not redoing it. So what I'm going to do is cover this with a short section of convoluted tubing, and then we'll tape both ends, and that should be good enough. It'll be alright. It'll hold up. Let me get some convoluted tubing and show you guys what I'm doing. Convoluted tubing is on. I know it don't look pretty, but it'll at least protect it a little bit. We push the plug through the panel. There's a little plug. And then we lift up this to access here. And then we plug them in. Now, this could be interesting. Just because I'm trying to hold the camera and plug stuff in. That's always going to be my excuse, y'all, when I struggle doing this. So, plug. I can't see what I'm doing. So, plugged it in. Plugged in. We'll take the screws back out of the floor here. Should be 4 of them. Like so. Tuck this wiring down underneath here as best you can. Then you put your lid down. Panel's in place. We'll just tighten this up. And yes, I know if you guys have electric screwdrivers, you guys can do that too, but mine is dead, and I don't mind working for it. And if you guys have never heard of work for it, it is actually D-Max Rhino on YouTube. That guy stands behind working hard for your money. Blue collar work. So get all these tightened up, and then we'll go to mounting the ECU. And now all of our wiring is ran, and I will be cleaning that console center hump before I put the console back in it. Well, you guys, I misspoke. I have the ECU in backwards. See how there's a channel? That's for your wiring to run through. Not the angle like I thought it said on the floor. So we're going to have to 180 this to sit with the plug facing this way. That way our wiring will channel through here. Not a big deal. 2 bolts or 2 nuts, and we'll swap that around. So we have ECU mounted under here, plugged in and wired in. Got all 4 nuts in, all the wiring's tucked up. We can technically roll the carpet back now. And you guys, my camera is always all over the place. So, you guys can see, carpet will flip back up in. Ooh, that's an ugly shot. And nobody's any the wiser, except for us, because we know what's going on. So we'll get that all situated and seated right, like that. It'll sit better once the seat's in it, and the console's in it. Now all the interior electrical is done. I still have to do some work to the trans wiring. And basically it just needs it covered. It's just a bunch of rat nest wiring because the convoluted tubing is missing. We get all our kick panels in, and we'll call the interior looking good. Well, you guys, that's how you do the interior wiring. I'm getting tired. I gotta get to work in the morning. 4:30 comes awful early. We have a few things we still can tackle while we're waiting on the trans to go in and get welded up. I could button up a bunch of small things. The suspension work is going to have to get started here soon. So maybe we'll start videos on that next. Anyways, I want to thank you all for watching. I know watching me do wiring and shaky camera work isn't exactly the most exciting thing, but hopefully you guys saw how I did it. The only difference between this and the Triptronic, or like the sport style shifter on the 5-speed swap, is the sport style shifter that has like a automatic with a manual mode. You have to pull the dash, from what I gather, and physically use the whole harness out of the donor vehicle. So that being said, y'all have a good night. God bless.